And we've also...
Oh. This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. And we're also we have sent medical aid into the most war-torn areas of Ukraine as well, and ongoing evacuation. Every few days we have buses that we take people out of Ukraine.
And all this of course costs. All this of course costs. So any donations that can be given for particular.
So the cost of the evacuation alone is close to $3.2 million. The cost monthly for us to be in Romania, on top of that, is about $2.4 million. And the team have worked around the clock to try and get refugee status for as many of the people as possible. So last week we got 10% of that refugee status we wanted, which means that they can work if they want to, which also takes off the burden from us a little bit, because if you can imagine, we have people who would normally be working and supporting their families, but we have to do that because there's no means for them to do that. So we've got 10% of that refugee status at the moment, so just another 90% to go.
Well, Nicole, we'll see what we can do in support for you and all the activities that you're so commendably involved in. I'm going to start the program. I mean, how do you introduce Uri Geller? World famous, unique, incredible person with abilities that we've all known for decades. He's been parts of our lives for as long as we can remember. But I'm going to share with you a little promo which was put out on Israeli television, which will recall some of the reasons why Uri is just so fantastically well known.
How do you start a video about the most interesting man in Israel?
Hi, I'm Uri Geller.
He is a world-famous sidekick. No wait, and a lover of spoons, a war veteran, and a TV star, a millionaire, and he even worked for the CIA. Okay, let's just begin like this.
Uri Geller is a British Israeli born in Tel Aviv in 1946.
But there is one thing you should know about Uri.
He has been controversial his whole life.
This is why.
I did say Uri loves spoons. Well, he actually became an international phenomenon thanks to them.
Everybody at home, go and get your spoons.
Yes, Uri claims that he can bend spoons using only the power of his mind. When Uri showed his abilities to the world, many people mocked and doubted him. However, the CIA did not. In 1973, the CIA tested Uri to prove his psychic and mental abilities.
So the CIA took me to Stanford Research Institute. I was locked in shielded rooms. Drawings were done miles away, and I had to receive those drawings telepathically. One drawing was done while I was in Palo Alto and a CIA agent in Langley, Virginia, and I knew exactly what he was holding in his hand.
Just look. These are the drawings of Uri and the CIA agent side by side.
So I ended up doing many things for the CIA. I erased floppy disks that belonged to KGB agents, and I beamed my powers onto the floppy disks. They arrived in Moscow. All the floppy disks were erased.
And at just 13 years old, Uri was already working for the Mossad, which is the Israeli version of the CIA. Uri grew up with little, so it is inspiring to see where he is today. He even now has his own museum. Here you can see the biggest spoon in the world that Uri built, breaking a Guinness World Record. Inside, there are countless gifts Uri received throughout his life. Right now, you are looking at an album cover that Uri designed for his good friend Michael Jackson, and art from Uri's mentor, the Salvador Dali.
Oh, did I mention that Uri is also a relative of Sigmund Freud?
A model has a Pokemon character based on him and recently warned NASA of an upcoming alien invasion?
I definitely think that qualifies Uri as the most interesting man in Israel.
So there is a lot we can learn from him. Despite all the doubts he faced in his life, he was still able to become the person he is today.
If you want to lead an extraordinary life, remember this. The secret of success is originality. I always believed in myself. I thought, If I can go there with my mind, I can go there with my body.
This is the life of Uri Geller.
This is Inside Israel.
How did you know I was going to say that?
I'm a big psychic, remember?
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. How do you start a video? The most interesting man in it.
Well, Uri, welcome to our community, Belmont, and for viewers who are with us outside of the community, thanks very much for joining us. Where you are right now in your museum, which we'll come on to a little bit later on, and I've been there, it is just spectacular. This is only a stone's throw, isn't it, from where you were actually born?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was actually born in Central Tel Aviv in a hospital called Ein Gedi. It's in Maze Street. And the doctor that delivered me, coincidentally, his name was Dr. Freud, and I happened to come from Silver Freud's family. I grew up in Sderot Rothschild Boulevard. And yes, I'm a Sabra. I left Israel when I was about 11 to Cyprus. My parents divorced, so my mother took me to Cyprus. I lived there for about 6 years and came back to Israel and joined the army, the paratroopers.
When you were born, though, at that period in time, Israel was still under the British mandate, and you narrowly escaped with your life. There was an incident where a British soldier shot through the window of the apartment where you lived, and you've actually got you can show us a little bit later, you've got a representation of the bullets. So what happened there?
Well, the street that we were living on, it's called Betzalel Yaffe. It's between Rothschild Boulevard and Yehuda Halevi. And across the railroad, the railroad was Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. There was a British post. I think it was a police station, British police station. And I was in a pram under a window in our living room. And this British soldier or policeman shot 2 bullets into our window. And, sometimes people ask you, what's the first thing you can remember? Well, believe it or not, I was 1 year old and I remember that incident. I remember the glass shattering. I was almost like falling slow motion. And there was a little German Steif teddy bear on my face. And I believe that teddy bear saved my face from being, that's unbelievable that I remember it.
I think the quality of the audio is not brilliant. I don't know if it's when you move, but I'm getting a little bit of drop out.
Let's move to a different location then. Follow me, and maybe you will hear us better here. It's all to do with modern technology of Wi-Fi's. Can you hear me better now?
That could be better. Let's carry on. We all know that you're super famous for the abilities that you have, but you actually remember the day and the moment when you think that you received these incredible powers. And it was an incredible incident, which was actually witnessed by an independent witness, an Israeli Air Force officer at the time. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, I was playing in an Arabic garden opposite our apartment building, and I heard kittens cry. So as a 5-6 year old, I was looking for the kittens. Suddenly, out of nowhere, appears a sphere of light, huge, and it was strobing. And I don't know how it happened, but a beam of light, or I can describe it almost like a laser beam, emanated out of this sphere, hit my forehead. It was so strong that it pushed me into the grass. I don't know how long I lay down, and I was probably so shocked. I got up, started running home, and my mother, of course, didn't believe me. She thought that I was either making this up or I dreamt it, but it really did happen. And I adhered to this story throughout my life. It's a crazy story. It sounds like I took it out of a bad science fiction movie, but it was so vivid, it was so real that I knew it happened. And hundreds of radio shows, my TV shows, newspaper magazines, I always told this story. Until one day, it was actually the BBC that did a documentary about me. And this Air Force officer, who's of course retired now, he's an older man, he saw me telling that story. So he emails me the next day, Uri, you're not going to believe this, but I was walking there. I saw you in the garden. And he described me running towards my apartment building. And he said that this sphere of light followed me. And when I entered the entrance to the apartment building, the sphere of light exploded on the wall, leaving a dark residue. Wow. You can imagine that for all these decades, I had no witness, no validation. And here is a credible Israeli retired Air Force officer saying that he saw that event.
Incredible. You started to become well known with performances in small venues in Tel Aviv to begin with, and then you started to make a name for yourself as people started to hear more and more about you. One of the people who actually kind of put your name on the map, so to speak, was none other than Golda Meir, and you have the unique claim to have read Golda Meir's thoughts from inside a toilet cubicle.
Yeah, well, by the way, let me just go back to the first incident with the lights, because you said I received my powers from it. I don't really know. I'm not sure. I don't even know what it was. Was it an extraterrestrial encounter? Was it a natural phenomenon? Was it a spiritual event? I don't know. But very soon after that, I started bending spoons. So I want to believe that that had something to do with it. Golda Meir, I had no money after the army. I was a paratrooper. I fought in the 6-Day War. And I had a white Vespa, which is hanging up there on the wall. We'll see it later. And I started doing house parties. People would invite me to demonstrate my abilities. And in these house parties, I didn't realize there were important people. There were judges, there were generals, and Golda Meir. And there were also Mossad agents. Wow, Golda Meir, I walk up to her and I hand her a piece of paper and a pen, not a pen, a marker. And I tell her, Golda, go to the loo, to the toilet, close yourself, do a secret drawing, don't show it to anyone. When you come out, I'll read your mind. And her first reaction was, nobody can read my mind. But she went to the loo. And I think I'm the only person in the world that ever sent the prime minister to the loo on command. She came out and I looked into her eyes and I drew a Star of David, and that's exactly what she drew. The next day was the beginning of my career. She was interviewed on Israeli radio. The presenter asks her, Golda, what do you predict for the future of Israel? And she says, without hesitation, she says, oh, don't ask me, ask Uri Geller. Wow. You can imagine the next day, the phone started ringing. I was living with my mother in a one-room apartment in Trumpeldor Street, opposite the graveyard. And the managers and agents from all over Israel, Mr. Geller, Uri Geller, can you do what you do in these house parties on huge stages of Israel? And that was it. I think I performed in every kibbutz, in every city, in every town, in every Army, Air Force, Navy base. For like 3 years, nonstop.
Now, among those who heard about you were the CIA, and it was the CIA who, if I've got my story correct, were the first agency or institution to have you professionally, scientifically tested, and it was the CIA who orchestrated your visits to Stanford Research Institute in California, where you were put under rigorous, scientifically controlled experiments. What kind of things did you have to do there?
Okay, just to correct you, in these house parties were also Mossad agents. So I get one day a telephone call from Mossad. Wow. we saw you in action, what can you do for us? Started working with Mossad, but remember, we're talking about 1969, no iPhones, no internet, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no TikTok, zero. Mossad wanted to know how do I bend the spoon? They wanted to know how I read minds, but they didn't have the tools to test me. They didn't have the electrode. So they called the CIA. The CIA jumped on the idea. They asked, will you help us study Mr. Geller? The CIA, wow. They said, of course we will, because the CIA, the way they think, well, if there's an Uri Geller in Israel, there must be one in Russia maybe. So we better study. And they sent Edgar Mitchell, Captain Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, to convince me to leave Israel. I fly over to him, 1972, he takes me straight to Palo Alto, Stanford Research Institute, where they put me under controlled laboratory, controlled conditions, and I have to perform. I was, under tremendous stress because I knew I could do these things on the stage, but can I move a spoon under a bell jar? Can I read minds through a Faraday cage? Will I be able to tell what a CIA agent is holding in Langley, Virginia, and I'm in California? But hey, it went all well. I passed through all the tests, and they actually gave me an amazing testimonial, which is up on the wall here.
That's right. Actually, I've got the quote which the CIA concluded as a result of your experiments. This is the CIA, so it doesn't get more official than this. They said, as a result of Geller's success in this experimental period, we consider that he has demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner. I mean, wow.
I would like to add something that through all my career, I was always controversial because, you always have skeptics who try to debunk you, who say it's not real, Uri Geller is just a magician, he has chemicals, yes. I was even accused of having a laser beam in my buckle belt. A New Scientist, a British publication, New Scientist, they had a whole page explaining how I did the telepathy in the shielded rooms. So their explanation with diagrams, how I have up my tooth a transmitter, and someone is Morse coding me from outside the result of the drawing. I mean, if I really had that transmitter in my tooth, it would be a much bigger phenomenon than just bending a spoon. So I went in New York to a dentist to x-ray my teeth just to show them that there's no implants and no transmitters in my teeth. So skeptics created me. They created the aura, they created the mysticism around me. Without the skeptics, I don't think I would be now standing here and talking to you, because there is nothing like good publicity, bad publicity, it doesn't matter. As long as you spell your name correctly, and I totally agree with Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde said 100 years ago, there's only one worse thing in life than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.
Uri, I want to bring in a very good friend of, a member of my community, a very good personal friend of mine, Stuart Burns, who's watching this event, because Stuart witnessed something spectacular that you did firsthand. Stuart, do you want to explain what it was?
Sure. I mean, if I give it a bit of background, first of all, I'm not a skeptic by any means, right? But there again, I do want to have facts presented to me. And I'm a forensic accountant. So, I rely on facts. I want to find facts. I give evidence in court on facts. So it's very factual based, right? So, that's the way I think. So you came to it was the Wembley Conference Centre. It must have been about 30 years, 25 years, 30 years ago, something like that. And you were in the crowd and you were going around with the spoons and you're bending spoons, right? So you came into our little circle and you were bending this spoon in particular, this one here, which is signed, by the way. And and this is a stainless steel spoon. I can't bend it even though I try to bend it, right? And you were rubbing the spoon and I saw it physically, we all saw it physically bend. And then you handed it to me. and it was actually bending in my hand.
Yes.
So you'd left it alone. It was still bending in my hand. And then this heat, along its right was energy. It was a very concentrated form of energy shot down my arm from this spoon up to almost to my shoulder. And it was like, I couldn't believe the energy of this heat wave went down my arm. And as it did that, the energy must have dissipated from the spoon because it then stopped bending. So
let me ask you.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you. First of all, some things that I would like to know from you. First of all, I'm amazed that my signature is still on that spoon, because usually Sharpies and markers just go off. But it looks to me like you're really keeping it in a good place. Number two, were you a pilot, or why do you have all those planes behind you there?
I'm actually writing a novel, but that's besides the point. I'm actually a bit of an aircraft enthusiast. So you can see here, there is this 1/5 scale Spitfire, remote control.
Oh, I love that.
And then you've got helicopters there, and you've got, I think this is there's a Hurricane there as well. You can see Hurricane there. And quite a bit of stuff there.
You've got a small museum. Now look at my aeroplane. Can you see
I saw.
Is
727, isn't it? 727?
See that?
Yeah. Is that 727? Wow.
That's a Libyan airline, and I got it as a gift from Gaddafi. I've got to tell the story. Rafi, is it okay if I tell the Gaddafi story now?
Can I just hold you 1 second? Just to finish off my point. There's definitely energy that you put into that spoon, and it was a force. And I wonder, I know that the CIA, and you've had these tests remotely about your powers and so on, but has that energy ever been calibrated? I mean, measured? Because it was definitely something was in there. No question.
Yes. Before, when we finish this conversation with Rafi and all of you, we'll go downstairs and I'll show you Kirlian photographs of energy leaving the tip of my finger. It's really amazing, but it's downstairs.
Okay.
So Gaddafi story. I was invited. Rafi, can everyone see me now? Are we all right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So we were invited to lots of parties in London. One day, a Libyan diplomat comes up to me and says, "You are Uri Geller. I see you on television. You're from Israel." So I say, "Yeah, I'm Israeli. I'm Uri Geller." And he says, "I will tell Gaddafi to send you a present." I didn't know what he was talking about. Anyhow, 2 months go by, and a truck arrives in Sonning-on-Thames with this amazing, huge case. We open the crate, and we find the plane inside, all packed up with, cloth and paper and cotton with a tripod. So I say, "What is this?" But I love the plane so much that I tell Hannah, my wife, let's put it up in our living room. So it's standing in our living room for decades. And Gaddafi comes to New York to talk at the United Nations. No hotel gives him the room because he's a dictator. So he says, "I put a tent in Central Park." No, they don't allow him. Then Donald Trump comes to Gaddafi and says, "I've got a piece of land in Bedford, New York. Put up your tent there." Anyhow, someone arranges me to meet Gaddafi. I walk into Gaddafi's space. He wears a brown galabia. He looks at me and says, "Uri Geller, I sent you the aeroplane so you can remind all you people what you did to us." You know, I had no idea what he was talking about.
Wow.
I go back home. I enter our living room, and I stand next to this plane, and I look at it for 3 minutes. I look at the logo. Suddenly, I realized what this is all about. Our Air Force, we shot down that plane with 113 civilians, women, children, because the pilot made an error. He penetrated Sinai Desert. Mistake. We immediately bring down 2 Phantom planes. The Phantom, our pilot tries to communicate with a French Libyan pilot. He doesn't answer. He shows him land. and the pilot through the cockpit goes, no, no, no. 1 minute passes by and the chief of staff, you know, they bring out 2 Phantoms, they fly, and the chief of staff says, shoot the plane down. The plane was shot down. It crashes on a sand dune. Out of 113 civilians, 5 survived. Why? Why did we do that? I'll tell you why. Because we were afraid that that plane above me was flying to Dimona.
Right.
Do you know what's in Dimona?
Yeah.
I don't see you now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what's in Dimona?
Nuclear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why, tragically, we shot the plane down. Okay, Rafi, let's go to another topic.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean,
you're cutting out. I can't see you.
Then just keep talking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you can hear me, if not continually see me,
yes.
Which may be good or bad, depending on your point of view. You know, people are mesmerized by what you do, what you claim to do. But I mean, for you, when you have telepathic thoughts, and you can read, let's describe it as reading people's minds. What do you see? What goes on in your mind? How do you receive? Is something beamed? Do you see a picture?
Yes.
How do you visualize your mind's eye?
I visualize a TV screen into a kind of a greenish background, into which I see the drawing materializing. So if, let's say, the CIA drew a bunch of grapes, with the CIA and other institutions that tested me, I had time. I could sit in the shielded room or in a closed room for hours, but on a stage, I don't have time. So in this imaginary screen that I see inside my mind, the picture appears. And so I see whether if they drew a car or a camel.
Uri, you've, sorry, beg your pardon, I think that was me. I've muted you by mistake. Sorry, Shippy, could you unmute?
Okay.
It's still in the middle of the story.
Hang on, I think, let me mute everybody again. If everybody could just make sure they're muted, because we're getting some background noise. Right, again, sorry, Shippy, could you unmute yourself once more? Sorry.
Are we on okay?
Yep.
Yeah, so what's the next question, if you have any?
Well, what I want to know is, does a recipient need to be willing to receive your telepathy, or can you just switch it on at will and just read anybody's minds, you know, wherever and whenever you want?
No, it doesn't work like that. You know, you have to be positive and optimistic and kind of open-minded to do telepathy. It's very difficult to do with people who are close-minded and skeptics. It's interesting, but whenever I do this on stage, I call up, you know, the audience, and I know who is willing to participate with the experiment. So yes, you have to be open-minded, and that's much easier for me.
I want you to show us in a moment around your museum, because it's just jam-packed full of artifacts you've collected over your 55-year career, and the most extraordinary things. Now, I've been there. I spent a week there, and it's one of the most, I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but it's just one of the most spectacular museums I've ever visited anywhere in the world. I mean, I really mean that. But what I want to ask you, actually, kind of just to round off this part, is what do you yourself think of your life? You look back on your life. You've had the most interesting, unique life. You were friends with Michael Jackson, John Lennon, Picasso. You met Elvis Presley. You bent a spoon from Elvis Presley. What do you think when you look in the mirror and you see Uri Geller?
Yeah, Elvis is right here. I don't know. Listen, I stayed rooted. I haven't changed. I'm still the guy who was born in Israel with chutzpah, because chutzpah helped me, conquer the world. And I don't know. It's just, I had an amazing life. So that's my answer. Here, Elvis, can you bring it closer, Shaki? This is a fascinating story. By the way, when you said that the museum is extraordinary, it's extraordinary because of my stories. And I tell the story. So people are just mesmerized by the story itself. But this is interesting. Elvis Presley dies. He's in a coffin, as you can see. And before they open Graceland's doors, Shiki, can you bring it really close up to show his face? Can you see him? Larry Geller, that's Larry Geller here. Larry was his hairstylist. So Larry looks at Elvis's face. They're outside Graceland. Tens of thousands of people are standing in a line to say goodbye to Elvis. Larry looks at Elvis's face and he's in a shock because all the roots of Elvis Presley's dyed hair are white because Elvis dyed his hair in black. Larry Geller says, I'm not going to allow people outside to see this. So what does he do? Larry walks over to a policewoman and asks her, tell me, by any chance, do you have in your bag rímel, mascara, eyelash? She says, yes. And with a long brush, Larry Geller colors hair by hair. Elvis Presley, amazing, this is incredible. When this newspaper comes out, under incredible synchronicity or coincidence, there was a full page about me and my mother. And if you didn't know, Elvis was Jewish. This is his chai, he's wearing it. And if you still don't believe that he was Jewish, look what is engraved on his mother's grave, a Star of David. And it was Elvis Presley himself that designed his mother's tombstone. So you see, these are the stories that fascinate people. These are Houdini's handcuffs.
Uri, just pause for 1 second, because I think Stuart wants to come back with a question. Stuart, you've got your hand up, is that right? You have to unmute yourself, Stuart.
Yeah. So just one question. I mean, it's totally off of the current subject, but is it true that Rio Tinto Zinc employs you by flying you over land masses to try and find minerals for them? Am I imagining that? I thought I read it something.
Absolutely true. The chairman of Rio Tinto Zinc was a nice gentleman called Sir Val Duncan. He believed in my powers. He flew me to his private home. I believe it was in Mallorca, with a private jet of Rio Tinto Zinc. Wow, that was unbelievable. I'm sitting in a private jet. And he hid little cans of oil, water, gold. And he said, okay, we're going to find it now. This is an experiment, off the record. And I found the locations. And then I worked for Rio Tinto Zinc. Okay, these are the handcuffs of Houdini. If you didn't know, Houdini was Jewish. His real name was Weiss. And I got them from David Copperfield because it's very rare to have handcuffs that belong to Houdini. This is amazing. If you can stand there, Shippy. Can you tilt the camera downward? Now, these two stones are 3,200 years old, and they are the gemstones. They are the mezuzah that were taken out of the two pillars that were the doorway into Ramses II's fort in Old Jaffa. And they are hieroglyphics, if you can turn it down more, right on the stone, kind of praising Ramses II. This is a mummy of Ramses II, and they reconstructed his face. These two gemstones were in the Museum of Israel, and now they're in my museum. This is Mick Jagger's Rolling Stones. Can you see that? These are the signatures. That's me and Mick Jagger. I'm dropping names now. That's with Elton John and Dave Stewart. Justin Hayward, that's his guitar. Do you all remember Nights in White Satin? So that's the guitar he used. If you can bring down and he signed it. Justin is such a lovely person. He lives in Monaco now. And believe it or not, the Moody Blues are on a tour now in America. Let's go to John Lennon, then to David Bowie. David Bowie and John Lennon. So, you know, I can only see you.
Where and when, Uri, you have to let us know where and when and how did you meet John Lennon?
Well, first of all, you must understand that I was kind of on a major ego trip in the early 70s. I cared only about Uri Geller. I was after fame and fortune. I wanted to meet everyone. I wanted to emulate people like John Lennon and Mick Jagger. But the way I met them is because I lived on 57th Street and First Avenue in New York. And there was this Studio 54 where everybody, you wanted to meet anyone, you go to Studio 54. Now, I didn't realize that these guys like Mick Jagger and Elton and John Lennon, they wanted to meet me because they had everything. They had money, they had big homes, they had this amazing music, but they couldn't bend spoons. So they wanted to meet this spoon bender from Israel. That's why I met them all. So this is John Lennon's hair. So I actually have his DNA right here. This is a drawing he drew. These are all originals of a UFO. That's me and him down here. And this is an object he claims. I can't, you have to bring it down, Shippy, sorry. This is an object he claimed that he got from an extraterrestrial. We don't have time to tell you all the stories. Okay, now David Bowie.
While you're there, Uri, because you're in that position, can you show us the mezuzahs?
Yeah, it's right here. Let me see if we can see. You've got to tilt it down there. This is an incredible mezuzah because the stone it was the 6-Day War, and I think someone picked it up from very close to the Wailing Wall. And that's a mezuzah. And up there, look up there, 550 hotel keys, my room keys. Now, I didn't steal them. I got permission from the manager. I told him, look, this is going back 55 years. I said, I'm going to bend the spoon for you on the condition that you allow me to take my room key. So we've got keys here from, Easter Island, Solomon Islands, Mala Mala, Beverly Wilshire, and one-star hotels. And here...
And also, Uri, it didn't always go according to plan, did it? Because you were kicked out of a hotel for bending the room key.
Yeah, I bent a spoon for the manager and he kicked us out.
That's the room key, didn't you? You told me.
This is very interesting. This is Clint Eastwood. When he invited me to his home, I bent a key for him, and this is what he says. I have watched Uri Geller spin the keys and things like that. I have seen that, so I'm a believer. It was my house key, and the only way I would be able to use it is to get a hammer and beat it out back flat again. So there are certain energy things that are outside of the norm. Clint Eastwood, wow.
Uri, did you hypnotize Clint Eastwood?
No, this is a, look, this is it must be what, in the 50s? Look how young Clint Eastwood is. And this is a hypnotist. He has hypnotized Clint Eastwood.
But you yourself learned hypnotism from an extraordinary individual, didn't you?
Yes, Avshalom Drori was a father of teachers, the guru of hypnotism. He escaped the Nazis by entertaining the special officers with hypnotism. This is a horse by a British sculptor called James Doran Webb. I'm sure you've seen it in the Chelsea flower shows. He presents there. He lives in the Philippines, and he created this horse for me from driftwood. You know, after earthquakes or tsunamis, amazing. It weighs more than half a ton. And there's a little sign I put up there, and it says a museum is a spiritual place, even though it is not related to religion.
You've got an interesting menorah as well.
Oh, well, it's back there. That it's not. It's a Chanukiah. This belongs.
Candelabra.
This belonged to the rabbi of Lubavitch. He blessed this Chanukiah. It was made in North Italy in 1913, the year my mother was born. And that's the famous dollar that he gives out. And this, here I am on the cover of Daredevil. Let's see if you can see that. Where? Ah, here it is. If you all remember Stan Lee was there of Daredevil, of Marvel Comics. And like Salvador Dali, he was so impressed that I bent a spoon for him that he put me on the cover of Daredevil. And I didn't realize in 1976 what a big deal that was. Shall we continue or do we have time?
Yeah, go for it.
So this here is David Bowie. Lots of stories here, but he didn't want an ordinary phone. So tilt this down, shipping. He wanted a phone that no one else has. So he asked an Italian designer to design him this telephone. This is a plate that Picasso painted, and somehow it got into the possession of David, an Israeli producer who produced a movie based on my life story called Mindbender. By director was Ken Russell, a British director. Ken Russell wanted David Bowie or Sting to play my father, but they were both on tour. So Sting at least wrote me, Uri, thank you for the very good luck with the movie. I mean, I can go on and on, but
downstairs, you've got some incredible items.
Wait, I want to show you this quickly.
As well.
Quickly here, should be taken off now. I'm going to show you some football stuff. 3 weeks ago, a Maradona shirt, football shirt, was sold close to $8 million. There is a Maradona shirt signed by Maradona. In Caniche, they scored a goal against Brazil. This is Messi's football signed. This is Ronaldo. And this is Berko. He's an Israeli footballer. Where did he play? In Chelsea? Yeah. And that's Boris Becker's racket. And he signed the ball. Let's go. This is a Brazilian footballer who was born by the name of Julio Cesar. And when he started playing football, he bent the balls like David Beckham, and they changed his name to Uri Geller. So that's amazing. This is from the United Nations, where that's a table that was designed for me by Versace. That's Donald Trump signed me that cap. Those are King David's Psalms that belong to Nikolai II. Let's go downstairs.
Uri, we can't go downstairs without seeing your Cadillac.
Oh, yeah, here. There it is. And actually, Yeah, look at it. And how can I not bend the spoon for you all? So here is a spoon, and it's a simple spoon you can see. And this is how I melt the metal down. Energy. There's no heat whatsoever. Give me a few more seconds. It's beginning. There, see, it's becoming soft. And so
you must go through a lot of. You must go through a lot of cutlery.
A lot of cutlery. But here, this is from Buckingham Palace. I got it from Prince Philip, who passed away, age of 99. I bent a Concord spoon for him. And I told him, Philip, you carry my bent spoon with you all the time. And he did, all the time. So James Dean, Elizabeth Taylor, I've got everyone here. Justin Bieber, King Robert the Bruce. This is from BB, this spoon right here.
Shippy, the picture's gone off.
Oh,
yeah, okay. You're back.
And look at the top of the car. And I've got to do one more. So wait, I want you to come real close up, Shippy. I'm going to melt the metal and imprint my fingerprint into it. Hold on. It's beginning.
We need to be, the camera needs to be more on the.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, okay, here. There it's going, I can feel it. There it is. If you come really close, you can see my fingerprint right in here. And if I turn the spoon around, look, just melted through it.
And that is an ordinary spoon. I mean.
Yeah, here, I prepared spoons here. Ordinary spoon. Listen, let's go downstairs now. How many more minutes do we have?
We've got 5 more minutes, if that's okay.
Come on. That was in the House of the Gold. This is a stool I found in IKEA, and I love the bent legs. And when I came to pick it up, I saw that it's called Uri. Okay, should we watch it here? Are we still on? Rafi?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we can see you, hear you, follow you.
500 pipes that were found in the diggings of this place. They're all opium, hashish, nargila, and tobacco pipes that the workers here used to smoke. They were all stoned. I love this place. These are all my telephones. These are all my cameras. From the age of 9, I bought this Brownie in Cyprus. This is the CIA, Mossad, the chief of staff, Kochavi. Aviv Kochavi brought me this a few months ago. And this is very rare. These are the binoculars of Rabin, Yitzhak Rabin. He signed the case. Very rare. There's no other binocular. Concord, the Concord pilot gave me the watch. I promoted the Concord at one stage. There I am in Heathrow. Jeff Bezos, this is his rocket. Richard Branson and I flew this plane. This was on the inauguration flight 35 years ago from Gatwick to New Jersey. That's the plane. This is my father in the British Army. These are his medals. He fought Rommel in North Africa. Can you see the medals, Rafi?
Yes.
Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy, and these belong to President Kennedy, and she was influential of publishing my books. This is Kobe Bryant's signature, and this is, of course, you all know, Lewis Hamilton. I bent a spanner for him, and that's his, we're together in the street, he's holding a bent spoon. This here This is Chopin's Death Mask, 1849. They used to pour plaster on the faces of famous people to make the death mask. Here, Albert Einstein's pipes, given to me by David Bohm, a letter that Albert Einstein wrote David Bohm, don't go to Israel, they're intellectually not ready for you. Sadat's pipes, Marilyn Monroe's Chanel No. 5, which was found near her deathbed. This is where I helped Mother, Magen David, to be accepted into the International Red Cross with the Palestinian Red Crescent. This is an Egged bus. It's an Israeli toy company, if you didn't know, 1950s. My renewal, the wedding renewal with Michael Jackson being my best man and his kippah that he wore. Fergie, she brought us this gift for during the wedding. That's Kim Kardashian, some of the books I've written, and the plates I designed for pool pottery. There's a queen visiting pool pottery. That's the original sign that was on the building in Pool. Okay, any other questions?
Wow. So what of all the thousands and thousands of artifacts you have there, what's your personal favorite?
My Vespa. My scooter, my Vespa.
Why is the Vespa so important?
Well, because I was 16 when I bought it in Cyprus. These are my certificates, GC, Terra Santa College in Nicosia. We have British teachers. Let me show you the Vespa quickly. You can show the ceiling of this place. I looked for the Vespa for so long and I located her. There, look. I refurbished her. She looks like she's new. Now the lights went out, not because of my powers, because it's this is the time the lights go out. But look, that's, hold on, Shippy's gonna put the lights on again. That's Shippy, say hi to him. So the Vespa was created the year I was born in 1946, 75 years ago. That's me riding the Vespa. Some of my girlfriends sitting on the Vespa. That's Picasso's easel, which is signed. And there's newspapers, the Daily Mirror, the Geller Effect, the Man of Baffles. And this, Rafi, you tell everyone what this is. Rafi, I can't hear Rafi.
No.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, that was me. This jacket, I personally delivered it to Uri on a flight. It was the strangest flight I've ever taken because the jacket belonged to a person called David Burglas. David Burglas might be familiar to a lot of you as one of the greatest magicians of the 20th century, a very good friend of Uri's. And he donated this jacket, which Burglas used to perform in on stage. And he sent him his love and his respect.
I think we're going to finish. So that's my first poster. These are all gifts from Salvador Dali. Dali, that's me hypnotizing Dali there. Look, he has curlers in his hair. And up there is a crystal that belonged to Leonardo da Vinci, which actually Salvador Dali gave me. That's an Andy Warhol. And this also, nobody knows how this ball is floating in this plexiglass box. People stand here for 10, 15 minutes trying to figure this out.
Well, I think that when everybody comes to visit your museum, they can have a go at trying to figure it out themselves.
Yeah,
Uri,
that's my first. Wait, that's my first car, and that's Princess Diana's carpet. Okay.
Princess Diana's carpet.
Okay, listen, guys, I'll say goodbye to you. Love you all. Tikva, right? That's the name of the charity.
Mm-hmm. Correct. That's right.
So put up, donate some money to this cause. It's a great cause. I couldn't believe, what's her name, Nicole? She quoted tremendous amount of millions and millions of dollars to get families out of there. I love you all. Shalom. And I'll see you here.
Very, very much from me, from all of us. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Pleasure. Bye-bye. Thanks very, very much. Bye-bye.